All right, it is 12 noon on the dot. Well, good afternoon, Dallas ISD staff and students. You are in for an amazing treat today. We have with us the one and the only Pepe Valdez. Let's just give him a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. And so this is the very first Career Day webinar, and he is our very first panelist, and we are extremely excited to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and our theme, Moving to the Rhythm of Progress. All right, so boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, be prepared to just hear some amazing things from our panelists today. So I am Dr. Candace Grant. I'm the director with the Racial Equity Office. And with me today, I have the pleasure of introducing Zujurli Sanchez. She is also a moderator for today, and our project manager, Miss Stephanie Fuentes Ponce. All right, so we're going to get ready. We're going to go ahead and get started as we focus our attention to you, Mr. Pepe. We want to know what inspires you to pursue this career in music, especially as a guitarist and a composer.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to share some of my story and some of my music with everyone here at Dallas ISD. I grew up in a family that everyone really enjoyed and respected music. My grandmother played the classical piano. My dad plays the guitar and sings. None of them professionally, but they still had a big love for music. So I grew up with that being normal. I grew up listening to a lot of music, being exposed to a lot of it. And, you know, once I was graduating high school, I didn't really knew what to do. Like in my heart was telling me to do music, and I was like, what should I do? So I went to college. I did a little bit of, I did psychology for a couple of semesters, and then I was like, nope, I need to go to music. So I dropped out, and I started studying music, taking it seriously. And, well, the guitar, my dad played it, so I always kind of idolized that, and then he taught me a little bit. Some friends taught me that, and composing came to me naturally. Like it's, I think, another way of expressing myself. It's kind of besides playing, composing is a way of, putting down really your thoughts and your emotions and your inspirations in music. So that came kind of as a consequence of all of this.
Oh my goodness, that is super amazing. I just love the way you talked about your family being a part of the music and everyone having an instrument. It just reminds me of that culture, that piece that's so important as a value system, and having that to just fall back on, that is absolutely incredible. And so, in talking about your love for music, I heard you say psychology, that didn't work out for me, but you were able to pursue what you love. Now, how has your Peruvian heritage influenced your approach to playing and composing the music? Because I know you talked about it came naturally to you. So let's tell us a little bit about your heritage and how that has helped mold and shape you as well.
Well, I think that the biggest part of it is kind of related to what I mentioned earlier, like really just listening to the music being played at home. And I was exposed to a lot of music, but of course, being from Peru, we would also listen to our own music, like I grew up listening to jazz and to rock and classical, but also like my grandparents, especially, they loved traditional music from Peru, from the coast, especially, that's where I'm from. And also other types of Latin music. Nowadays I play with a lot of different groups here, and it's easier for me to play some of that music because, I heard that at a party, or we used to dance to this song when we were kids. So, oh my God, I remember when this one came out on the radio. So really being exposed to all of that music from the beginning. And then, I also had a very important teacher growing up that before I moved out of Peru, once I was accepted to study, I went to study to Brazil before I moved here to the US. And he told me, once I was accepted, he was like, okay, now you need to learn your own roots and you need to learn how to play all of these styles really well, because once you go out, and he was really right, it's like you're going to miss your country and that's going to be kind of something that's part of you that you can take anywhere, you know? So my teacher in that moment, his name is Andres, he really pushed me for like the last couple of months of lessons to study like only traditional rhythms, and like I'm always thankful for him for doing that, you know?
That's great. I love how you talked about all the different places that you've been. You've studied in Peru, you studied in Brazil, and you studied in the United States. And so all of that helped to cultivate who you are as a musician today. Like that rhythm, I can't wait to hear at the end how you play, because I feel the love and the compassion for what it is that you do. Now, as a music educator, what do you find most rewarding about teaching young students, and how do you incorporate like what you just talked about, those cultural roots into your lessons?
Well, first of all, like I mentioned, I had various teachers that were like super important in my life. So I really, appreciate that. And I try to kind of do that with my students. I also try to teach them, like if I had the chance of going back in time and teach myself, it's kind of a weird idea, but a lot of times, for example, I started studying piano before I played the guitar, and I kind of didn't like it, and then I dropped it out. But then when I was older, right now, I always wish like I should have stick to that, or maybe like another teacher would have maybe made it more interesting. So I always think in retrospective, like, hey, how can I make this something that's appealable for the student and something they like? I mean, for me, the most rewarding thing is really working with students and seeing like their brain, just like the light bulb, just go like boom and getting ideas.
Yes.
I truly think that there's many ways students can get things, but once they get inspired and once they get excited about learning, they're unstoppable. Like I've had a couple of students that they just all of a sudden they are like really hungry or thirsty for knowledge, and it's just like they just go for it. So that's the most rewarding thing, seeing them like get really excited. And then I incorporate my roots into teaching, like I mentioned, kind of paying homage to my teachers. And also like I teach a lot of, I teach in English and Spanish, and sometimes I realized that teaching in my own language sometimes a little bit more comfortable, because some of the concepts that I can transmit are a little bit more clear, and I had a friend that he's from Japan, and he's the one that told me this, like he was teaching private lessons here and it didn't click. And then when he moved back to Tokyo, he was like, oh my God, like I love teaching because now I can communicate really well. And I'm not kind of having to think about things or examples. So yeah, teaching for me, I love doing it in both languages, but in Spanish, I think I can, explain more things and more concepts with like deeper ideas and thoughts.
That's great. I love how you talked about your own experience with teachers and how they poured into you, and then you were able to do the same thing with your students and get the opportunity to see them light up as you had the same experience. So that's that mentorship that I hear coming out. And so I'm going to pass it over to our next moderator, Miss Stephanie Ponce.
Well, Pepe, I can relate on missing home so much. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so I know how that feels like. And I know moving to a new country and new cultures and new experiences can also bring a lot of challenges within, right? So I would like to ask you, what challenges do you face as a Latin American musician studying and performing in the US, and how do you overcome them?
Well, I came to the US to study jazz at UNT. So I came to study a style of music that's not part of my tradition, and that's extremely hard, complicated, and very rich. So at first, it took me a lot of time kind of to level up, because the level of musicianship here in the US is tremendously high. It's really great. So at first, I was kind of like seeing this, and I came a little bit older because I already had studied in Peru and in Brazil. So I was maybe 22, 23, and some of these kids were 17, 18, getting out of high school, and they were like amazing players. So the first thing was just catching up. And then, um, diving deep into that tradition and just listening to that music with a lot of patience and having, again, great teachers that were able to tell me, hey, you can play this, but you need to listen more to this, or hey, try learning about these things. So that was a big challenge, just, having a different background. Of course, it really helped me because now I can play a lot of different styles, and that allows me to work a lot, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, that was the biggest challenge, I would think. It's just like getting used to the new culture, and then, just, I think with patience, I've been living here for 11 years. So, eventually you start adapting and getting used to some of those things.
I could hear the practice and really wanting to do it really was that motivated you to continue. So we're always going to face challenges, but if we continue, we learn. We have those great mentors that you also mentioned, and those teachers that push you. Look at you now, right? Having all of this experience and being able to also pour into others. Latin American music is rich with the rhythm and emotion, and I'm pretty sure we all know that. How do you think music can be a tool for progress and positive change in society?
Well, any music genre, no matter what, usually it will always, or art in general, touches and moves people in ways that a lot of other things can't, So a lot of times a painting can be more impactful than reading 8 books on the war, for example, right? Or listening to a song about someone's longing home can be more powerful than an interview about, so like sometimes just art and expressiveness in the arts can already be really powerful. And yes, Latin American music is super rich, like you said, in rhythm and emotion. And a lot of the music that I love is very emotional, like, you are either laughing or crying. It's kind of like this roller coaster. And I think it's always a good tool for change, because someone, can listen to a song and really change their perspective on something, right? Or like I said, art in general, but yeah, music can have that impact. Like it really touches you and it really moves you to the point that maybe, a more straightforward way of dealing with something would have.
Definitely, and definitely can relate to that nostalgia and being able to listen to a song that can take you back into the memories or forward, or looking forward to it, or definitely learning more about something. For my last question before I pass it to Sue, what role do you think representation plays in inspiring young students, especially those from Hispanic communities, to explore the arts?
Well, I think that it's very powerful when you see someone doing something that looks like you, right? Like when you don't see that, it's hard to think out of the box. And I think that representation is important, and the arts too. I used to tell some of my students, like, because they were like, why do we have to play music? Like, we don't like this. And I was like, when you foster creativity, you can think outside of the box, and you can see yourself doing other things that you might not associate yourself with doing. Maybe all of your family works in something, and then you want to break out of that mold. So doing art, doing music really helps you doing that, and then seeing someone doing it is like, okay, if that person can do it, I can do it, and it's possible to do it, right? So I think that that's very important to be able to see people doing things, and just believing that, okay, if that person was able to do it, and maybe they had the similar background, similar difficulties to overcome, then, I need to put effort or whatever, but it can be done, right? It's proven that it can be done. So I think that's very important.
Definitely nothing impossible.
I agree. So before we went live, we went ahead and we were talking about your little girl and how you have one on the way. So how do you balance your work as a private guitar teacher, freelance musician, leading some of your original projects as well? How do you do all of that?
It's a lot, but I think that, well, first of all of the things that I do, I love doing them. So I might be tired physically or mentally, but I do them with a lot of love and passion. Taking care of my daughter is like, at any moment I will be destroyed physically, but I will wake up and I will do things for her, for my wife, the same. That now that she's pregnant, it's like, and now she's getting on the last trimester, so she's like getting a little bit more tired. I'm like, okay, you chill, I'll take care of this and do that, don't worry. So it's a lot, but first of all, I think that, I enjoy doing those things. They are my duty, so I have to do them. But also, I have to be very organized. Of course, I have to have a calendar. I have to always be looking at my calendar and be like, okay, I have this amount of classes today. Oh, I'm going to perform here. I have to move this student from this time to this time. So, that helps. But yeah, it's I think a combination of enjoying the things you do, some organization, and then there's some times that maybe I'm doing way too many things and I need to take a step back to and that's totally fine.
That's important.
Yeah, and then also one thing that helps me a lot is, since my schedule is different, I'm not every day working at time, and then one day I might work 4 hours, another day 5, then I might go play 2 times. So I really try to take advantage of my free time. And whenever I see a free slot on my calendar, I'm like, I need to rest. I need to use it for myself. And then, or planning ahead, hey, this week I have a couple of concerts coming up. I have to prepare the music. I have to go to the rehearsal. So kind of, being organized, seeing things ahead of time, and then using the time adequately, I would guess,
Gotcha. So love, passion, and calendaring. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
So winning 3 Downbeat Student Music Awards is an impressive accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to young students aspiring to achieve similar success like yours?
Well, I think that, what I've been mentioning, just like putting a lot of energy, passion, and hard work, not even I think in any career, whatever you decide to pursue in life, whatever it is, do it with a lot of passion and effort and with love and joy. Not only because that's the best way to get ahead, but that's also the best way to, sometimes you will have to do things and some days are a little bit worse than others, but if you really enjoy what you do and you appreciate what you do and you're kind of grateful for the things you're doing, the day is going to go much faster and it's going to be much nicer. And if you're dreading every single moment of the things that you're doing, right? So, but yeah, for me, winning those 3 things was also impressive because we a couple of one of the projects was mine, and the other I was playing for a friend, and the other was a group of the school. And it's kind of like you go, you do your recordings, you submit that, and you're like, oh well, hopefully it does good, and then you win. So it's kind of like, wow, it's a very good, it's a big surprise, and it's a big validation that what you're doing is correct and you're kind of on the right direction, So I would say that to students to put the effort and then to, try and go for it. And then if sometimes you don't win things, you see the things I've won, you don't see like the 1,000 things I haven't won. So it also takes a lot of time and effort, and you're also a lot of times, how do I say this? Like sometimes we only see the success, but we don't see. It's like an iceberg, all of the things beneath the iceberg are the many times I've committed a mistake, I've forgotten something, I did bad in a class. All of those things are kind of under, and sometimes people only see the top and you just want to get with the top. And when you're starting to get the things on the bottom, you kind of get, I'll do something else. So no, it takes a lot of effort and patience and a lot of failing and a lot of losing to win,
Stay consistent, kids. If you love it, if you have the passion, stay consistent.
Yeah.
For my final question, what message, besides the one that you just said, stay consistent, if you love it, stay consistent, would you like to share with our students for celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month about the importance of staying connected to your culture while pursuing your passion?
Well, I would like to tell students that it's very easy to move to another country and to have your culture kind of like just diluted, and then you're like, oh yeah, I am from this and that country. I say 3 words in that language, and maybe I cook one thing badly, which is fine. But I think that a lot of times we come with, and this is a country of people that 99% of people immigrated to this country. There's a very small percentage that were native here, but most people here in the US are immigrants to this country, and each culture and each wave of immigration brings a different thing. And the reason it's been, a true exchange of ideas is because people bring different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching things, and I think that's good. So I would recommend to try to stay connected with your past, especially if you're pursuing a passion in the arts. People want to see who you are. People don't want to see you copy something else. People don't want to see you be a robot of something. They want to see who you are, and part of your story is your background. I would lie to all of you if I tell my story. Oh yeah, it started 2 years ago here. No, it's like all of that, whether you like it or not, is part of your story and it's your background. And then I think that on top of that, I think the culture of my country, I love it, is huge, it's very rich. But of Latin America, it's an extremely rich musical culture that I think, I think it's worth exploring, cultivating, learning, practicing. I think it's worth it. I think it's almost, I see it as almost my duty to preserve some of the music and learn it, just because I don't know, I feel a connection with it, and I feel like it's something that's beautiful, that's worth preserving and playing, and I enjoy it a lot too. I think that's the most important thing, that you have to like it.
Of course. I definitely understand that duty part. I'm also from Puerto Rico, and I lived there for 12 years, and I'm a walking billboard. If people don't know when they need to go for vacation, go to Puerto Rico. You're going to love it. You're going to love the beaches. You're going to love the mountains.
Yeah.
You're going to love the food, the people, everything. We have to do it. All right, Candace, back to you.
All right, so we are getting to the point where we can get some questions in the chat. I see we already have some. And those of you that are here, go ahead and put your school that you're representing so we can shout you guys out. I see Skyline Library is here. And so we love that you have put your school there. So put your names in the chat. And while you're putting your names there, we are going to start some of the questions that have already been placed in the chat. And then we'll continue to do some shout outs as we go. We have about 10 minutes, and we definitely want to give the campuses the opportunity to ask as many questions as possible. So question number 1, how many instruments do you play?
The guitar is my main instrument. I do play a lot of other instruments, but it's because I know music and I kind of can get around. I've played bass professionally too. They are very related. I can play piano, percussion, but I try to focus on the guitar because a lot of times spreading onto many instruments, then you kind of compromise. I can play a lot, but I would say guitar is my main instrument. It is my main instrument, and I try to concentrate most of my time on playing the guitar.
I like that. I love the multifaceted talents that you have. That's great. We appreciate you for sharing that with us. Where is your favorite place to perform?
That's a great question. One of the beautiful things about music is that sometimes I'm playing in my bedroom and I'm the happiest person in the world. Sometimes I'm playing for 1,000 people and I'm kind of like, this kind of is not the greatest thing. So for me, a lot of times, the ideal environment is an environment of people that is engaged and are truly paying attention to the music. If it's more of a party band, or if we're celebrating something and they're enjoying it, that's great. But I really appreciate when people are paying attention and are there for the music and are kind of connected, which is something it's getting lost a little bit. People are there like on their cell phones, or they're just shouting or just trying to get a drink instead of listening. So I like more places where people are paying more attention and engaged. That's kind of the ideal setting for me.
Absolutely. As a musician, I know you don't want people being distracted. Yeah. So I have a question here from L. O'Donnell, 3rd grade bilingual. They want to know from you, how long do you practice? How long did you practice to learn how to sing?
Well, I'm not a singer, but I'm going to sing the thing for the guitar. I practiced a lot. Growing up, I would probably spend, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a day playing the instrument. When I was in college, probably even more. Nowadays, with all of the things that I have, sometimes I don't have time to practice, and sometimes my practice time is just like learning the songs for a show or reviewing some things, and that's it, you know. But they say you need to put at least 10,000 hours on something to do that. So I think probably at least that, I would say, yeah.
So I hope the kiddos heard that. How many hours did you say, Pepe?
10,000.
10,000 hours. So if that's not consistency, if that's not commitment, if that's not dedication, you have to put the time into what you love and you are passionate about. So we're coming to a close. I want to give you about 2 more questions. And I have a shout out to Townview Library. They are here and in the house as well. Next question says, failure is a key part of success. What instrument has been the most challenging for you to master or teach? Because I know you said guitar is your main instrument, and you did speak a little bit about the piano, but I don't want to answer the question for you. What do you think, which instrument has been the most challenging for you to master or teach?
The guitar for me is a really hard instrument. Like, it's the way it's built. It has a unique thing that the same note can be played on multiple places, and the piano and most instruments, one note is on one place. So the guitar just has way too many options. It's also physically hard, you know, to perform. So I would say the guitar. Yeah.
Hard to teach to other students just because of the intricacies of it?
Yes, and the mechanical part, like there's a lot of instruments, like we all type on our keyboard, so our hands are used to typing, right? The guitar, you have to press with a hand, you have to pluck with another hand, so it's 2-hand coordination, and then this hand has to do a lot of work, and it's physically draining, and a lot of times students won't have the mobility, and it's just that's what it is. So they might get frustrated on the first 2 or 3 months until they gain some motion. You know, once a student can play, and if it's an advanced student, I love it. I love teaching that. When it's a more of a beginner student, it's a little bit more tricky because you see frustration and it's hard, and my hand doesn't work, and you know, so it's dealing with that, you know.
Absolutely. I hear you. I heard you say earlier when you were talking about your instruments that you wanted to learn how to play piano. And as a musician or a singer, I would say myself, I thought about, you know, why didn't I learn? And so sometimes as students, we get to the place where we put things off and then we come back in the future and we realize, oh, you know what? I should have put in the work. I should have stayed diligent in it. And so I hear you completely when it comes to learning the music and being able to just adjust with the hard times, as they say. So we're coming to a close. I have another shout out. I am not going to forget you, Skyline Career Prep. I see you talking about we're here. So I don't want you to think that we're going to leave you out. But before we close, we have 2 minutes. I would love for you to just strum a little bit for our boys and girls so that they can get to feel the movement to the rhythm of progress as we talk about our theme for Hispanic heritage.
Sounds good. So I'm going to play a song from Peru. It's one of my favorite songs from a great composer called Chabuca Grande. I'm going to make a short arrangement of it, and I hope you guys like it.
my goodness. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pepe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Talent. Yes, thank you for sharing your talents with us today. We are extremely honored to be in your presence, and we just say to boys and girls today that we will have another career webinar coming soon. So please, please, faculty, staff, and students, join us again as Dallas ISD celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month, moving to the rhythm of progress. Come on, let's give Mr. Pepe Valdez one more round of applause. You are awesome, and we appreciate your time for being with us today. You guys have a great rest of your day.